This is a true story. In April 2003, explorer Alan was rock climbing in a canyon when he suddenly lost his footing and took a devastating fall. As he plummeted downward, his right hand became wedged beneath a massive boulder. The sudden accident left Alan stunned and disoriented. When he finally came to his senses, he found himself trapped at the bottom of a long, narrow gorge. Alan desperately tried to pull his arm free, but instead of loosening, the stone seemed to grip his hand even tighter. Fighting through excruciating pain, he attempted to move the boulder with his left hand, straining with every ounce of strength he could muster. The massive rock remained completely immovable. Growing more frantic, he tried kicking at it, ramming it with his shoulder, and using his body weight to slam against it. He exhausted every possible technique, but the boulder might as well have been permanently cemented in place. Exhaustion began to overwhelm him, and he desperately wanted to rest, but the crushing weight on his arm made that impossible. Waves of agony kept washing over him as he realized his hand was being slowly crushed. In his desperation, Alan began shouting for help at the top of his lungs. However, the vast canyon stretched endlessly around him. Completely devoid of human life, he couldn't even spot a single living creature anywhere in sight. With no hope of rescue and completely cut off from the outside world, Alan knew he had to find a way to save himself. He began taking inventory of the tools in his backpack: climbing rope, a digital video camera, his watch, a folding knife, and less than half a bottle of water. The knife seemed like his best bet for getting out of this predicament. Alan started chiseling away at the rock face surrounding his trapped hand, but within minutes his arm began aching from the repetitive motion. He continued this grueling work for several hours, managing only to chip away tiny, insignificant fragments of stone. Then disaster struck. In a moment of carelessness, the knife slipped from his grip and fell deep into a crevice between the rocks. Panicking, Alan bent down as far as his limited mobility would allow, but he couldn't reach the blade. Thinking quickly, he pulled off his sock, found a nearby branch, and gripped it between his toes. Inch by painstaking inch, he managed to fish the knife back up to safety. Unfortunately, he discovered that the blade had become significantly dulled from all the chiseling. With no other option, Alan spent the entire day and well into the night sharpening the knife against the rock. His mouth felt like cotton. He hadn't had a single drop of water since the accident began. Carefully unscrewing the bottle cap, he allowed himself just the tiniest sip, holding the precious liquid in his mouth and savoring every drop. His legs, which had been supporting his weight for hours on end, were beginning to give out. He needed to find some relief. After dozens of attempts, he finally managed to throw his climbing rope high enough to catch on a rocky outcropping above. He tied the other end around his waist, creating a makeshift harness that helped distribute his body weight and gave his exhausted legs a much-needed break. As Alan settled into this temporary respite, the first rays of sunlight began filtering through the narrow canyon walls, signaling the dawn of a new day.